Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
9 seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffa.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to episode 269 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, and I am not here by myself tonight. Justin is with me. It's just the studio's arranged a little differently because, well, I was just too lazy to tear it down from when I did the Nat Chats with Dad and Tangents with Friends crossover between the holidays, and then we were supposed to have a show a couple weeks ago, and a little medical emergency came up, and we had to postpone that. So
life, man, life gets in the way.
Right. So the studio stayed set up for the 4 or 5 person deal they had going on when Natalie and the Berenshausen brothers were here to hang out and talk. But so Justin's not sitting directly next to me this evening. He's sitting out a little bit further away from me. But, we'll make it happen. We'll make do. We can still talk football, which unfortunately is coming to an end. We are now, we only have 3 games left. 2.
Well, 4 if you count the Pro Bowl, right?
Well, sure, yeah. Well, why not? So we got the AFC and NFC championship games are set. That just happened, this weekend, but about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. We figured out who would be in the NFC championship game. And unfortunately for nearly everyone listening to this show, it will not be the Eagles. That was the last game that just concluded about 45 minutes ago down in New Orleans. The game started, and we thought Philadelphia may be making back-to-back appearances in the NFC Championship game. They jumped out to a 14-0 lead. Unfortunately, that's all the offense they would muster. A game-winning or potential game-winning drive that started off pretty strong, although Justin did mention before the show that it was aided by some New Orleans miscues and penalties. Nick Foles ended up throwing an interception, although I don't think you can pin that one on him.
That's one where I really feel like, and this may exist in like the next gen stat kind of things, but there should be interception statistic for receivers.
I
believe there is. Like there probably is. Like, if you interpret the next-gen stats a certain way, I'm sure you can kind of figure that out. But, yeah, like, there's no question that was not on Foles. That was on Alshon. But, hey, it happens. It's kind of tough. It's kind of crazy. The Saints had a couple wins kind of like that. Like, they beat the Steelers in Week 16 when Juju fumbled late in the game. They've had a couple breaks. It's one of those things tend to go their way down in the Superdome, and that's not anything new. So, but the bigger picture, you can't score 14 points and expect to beat the Saints. Like
you can't play
highly unlikely. Now the Cowboys did it this year. They scored. I think they only scored 13 and beat them. Yeah. But you can't. If you hold the Saints to 20, you need to win that game, and they played good for two drives, and we talked about this a little bit before the show. Like, I was getting really frustrated with some of the situational defense for the Eagles, but when the defense holds them to 20 points, you cannot really put it on the defense. The only time that I'd really put some questions on the defense was before half, when they have to drive 90-some yards, and you rush for the entire time and sit back in zone and let them get down and get a field goal.
Right.
Now, I understand you don't want to get beat deep, and Michael Thomas was just running past everyone. I think he ended up with like 170-some yards receiving.
Yep.
So, it's kind of, you have to pick your poison there, but if you give Brees time, and they were giving him time, he wasn't getting pressured much after the very beginning of the game with just rushing 4. That's going to dial up trouble, because he's just going to wait and then pick you apart. So, as frustrating as that is, though, you give up 20 points, that's not on the defense. The offense did absolutely nothing after the second drive.
Right.
And that's on them, And I know there were tons of injuries. I know they lost 2 linemen during the game. I know they lost some defensive backs for portions of the game. I knew they lost Fletcher Cox for parts of the game. That today was a microcosm of the Eagles' season. Have some really good things, and you saw some flashes of what you got a lot of last year, and then just things, when they went wrong, they went really wrong, and just it's kind of too little too late. And that's too little too late probably sums up the Eagles season.
Yeah.
And I say that, like, they won a playoff game when they were almost mathematically eliminated from the playoffs a month or so ago. So, you know what? Like, they went on a good run. I was glad to see that they didn't quit. I think that shows a lot about Peterson and the way the coach kind of relates to the players, because they could have – that game could – or not that game, but this season could have been folded in, and it could have gotten ugly down the stretch, and it was the opposite. We saw that with some other NFL teams. Like, when they – when things went bad this year, they went really bad. And that didn't happen with the Eagles. They kind of kept hanging in there, and they kept fighting, and I think that's the key. And they were able to get enough last year. They weren't able to get quite enough this year, and that's just the way it goes.
Just think about this game that happened in Week 11. No one would have thought the Eagles would even have the chance to seek some revenge for that defeat down in New Orleans and do it in the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
People didn't think they'd make the playoffs, let alone win a game on the road against a Chicago team that looked incredible. I mean, we thought that Chicago would be better this year, and we never thought they'd win a division. And here they are, a double doink away from making it to the next round. Instead, it's the Eagles who struggled mightily at the beginning and middle parts of the season and really came on at the end. They had won 6 of their last 7, I think, entering today. But it's tough when it ends, when you've been, one of the hotter teams. You kind of feel as though you came up short. But if you look at the season as a whole, I feel like the Eagles actually overachieved. Now, maybe they underachieved based on preseason expectations, but as the season started, I feel like you got to be happy with what they were able to do.
I'd say as of November, when we look at like the 2/3 point of the season, I'd say the Eagles overachieved. They won a playoff game, and a lot of people didn't think they were even going to make the playoffs at that point. I sent you the text with the quote, the Denny Green quote, "They are who we thought they were."
Yep.
Like, this was the Eagles team that they showed us most of the year. And the Saints are the 1 seed and by record, the best team in football for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to play a pretty darn perfect game to go into New Orleans and beat them anytime, let alone in the playoffs. And the Eagles played far from a perfect game today.
Right.
And it's one of those things where last week, honestly, they didn't play much better. They played about the same, I feel, as they did last week. The difference is you don't have Mitchell Trubisky on the other side this week.
No, you've
got Drew Brees on the other side.
One of the top 3 quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
An MVP or a possible MVP this year.
Right.
and surefire Hall of
Because
Famer.
honestly, look, the offense didn't play. It got distorted because they were going against the Bears defense. So people will overlook the fact that they didn't score a lot last week. But in 2 playoff games, now I know they played the Bears, but in 2 playoff games, they won 16. They had 16 points last week, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. So they scored 30 points in 2 games. They averaged 15 points.
Right.
So, that's not going to get it done. 15 points a game in the playoffs, not going to get it done.
No. So, it is what it is. The Eagles just didn't have enough this year. They actually probably have done better than most teams that win the Super Bowl outside of maybe New England. How many other Super Bowl winners actually have a solid season the next year?
Not to be a spoiler for earlier, but obviously everyone knows the Patriots won. This is like Brady's 8th straight.
This is the
championship
Patriots'
game,
8th straight
which is
AFC Championship
absolutely
appearance.
absurd.
Yeah,
I sent this to you a couple weeks ago when the Eagles made the playoffs. That I was going to send it to a friend of ours who had sent it to me back when the Eagles looked dead in the water. He sent me a meme that said the Eagles are going to be the first Super Bowl champion to end the season. I thought it was without making the playoffs. It wasn't. When I reread the meme, it actually said with a losing record, which was gone before the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, but the Eagles also made the playoffs. And I was going to send it back to our friend, but I did not. But I sent it to you instead.
Yes, I received it loud and clear.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was a good season. Yeah, you didn't win back-to-back Super Bowls. Outside of the Patriots, teams don't do that. So at least in our time, I say that Denver did, but outside of them and the Patriots, it doesn't really happen. So
yeah, I guess the Patriots were the last ones, 03-04,
Right.
03-04 seasons. Is that
so
right?
yeah, but
Yeah. 01, 03-04, yeah.
I think the future is bright for the Eagles, but it's different. It's different. Like a lot of the guys that helped them get to the Super Bowl, I think they need to there's a semi-rebuild. They have some key pieces in place, but they're also going to need to replace some big pieces over the next few years. I don't think there's any real question about that. It'll be interesting to kind of see how Wentz's recovery plays out. And into next year, more so with his next contract, when that's going to come up, because this was his 3rd year, correct? So next year is his 4th year, which means they'll probably exercise his option for his 5th year,
Right.
but they'll also, that, how that goes with
Yep.
especially quarterbacks. They're not going to wait around on that, but
Right.
it's interesting because I know they've got a lot of decisions they have to make, and you don't necessarily want to pay the guy now, but it would be high risk. But it would be interesting if they
To try to lock him up.
if they tried to renegotiate.
This is the end
now.
of season 3, right?
Right. Try and buy.
So,
Buy low.
Don't they need to pick up his 5th-year option this offseason?
I don't know how it works. I don't know. Possibly.
I could be wrong about that, but I thought entering a player's 4th year, the first-round picks, the team has the option to pick up the 5th year.
That might be. Yeah. And they'll absolutely do that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely.
And it makes sense money-wise. So, I understand that's not how you do it, but it'll be interesting to, kind of just at least have that discussion. You know, to, see if we could maybe extend now. But I don't know. I guess that kind of gives you where I stand on the whole Wentz is the future thing. Yes. Foles has played amazing in key times for the Eagles, but Wentz is the guy moving forward.
He has to be.
He has to be.
Yeah.
He has to be.
I get it. Foles has had a great, the renaissance last year in the playoffs and what he was able to do in the
Down
regular
the stretch,
season here at the
yeah.
end. But
he also lost the starting job. Well, not lost the starting job. They rushed Wentz back this year because Foles wasn't getting it done at the beginning of the year.
Right.
They were 1-1, but the offense was not playing well.
Right.
And I know people are like, yeah, well, Alshon was out and stuff like that. Okay, well, you want to throw some of the defensive collapses that were losses for Wentz, on him? Defense couldn't get the job done against Dallas. The defense couldn't get the job done against Tennessee. The defense couldn't get the job done against Carolina. You know,
Everyone loves a winner.
right.
So, and I mean, at the end of the day, that is all that matters. But,
Right.
like, you
But
can't jettison.
also look at it from a contract standpoint. You have a better chance to build a winner for next year and the year after
with Wentz.
than you do with Foles.
Right. You have a 2-year period to
Right.
get it done before Wentz demands a ton of money. You would think.
Right. And then you're in the position that all the teams are that pay their quarterbacks big money, where you're struggling to. You got to hit your draft picks then, which is good because the Eagles don't have the ton of draft picks.
Right.
Like they've traded them for this year and next year a little bit, but that's okay because you have the money to spend other places because you have Wentz on that rookie deal.
Right.
But after that, that's when you're going to need to hit with your draft picks a little bit more. You always need to hit with them, but you know what I mean. Like you build more through the draft. I know this is ridiculous, unless there's like a pass rusher or like a lockdown corner, right? And you're not going to get that where the Eagles are drafting. I absolutely draft all offensive players. I draft linemen, I draft some more linemen, and then I draft some linemen some more. Because look at the teams that won this weekend.
Quarterback and offense.
Right, teams that won this weekend were able to protect their quarterback and run the ball. And running the ball, there were a few problems for the Eagles, but one of which was they don't have a running back. But like, I don't feel like you necessarily need to draft a running back high. And again, where the Eagles are going to be, like, you're not going to draft a running back at like wherever 22 or wherever they end up picking. I don't know, but
yeah, I'm trying to pull that out right now. Yeah, don't have. I pulled up a mock draft just to see what we're looking at, but it hasn't been updated since Christmas Eve. So obviously we know that things have changed since then. But it's Kyle Krabs from the Draft Network.
Yeah.
I pulled that up just because he went to Wilson.
Right.
So it's fun to and played football for Wilson.
I love watching his Twitter reactions to college bowl games when all the analysts are throwing out. I say analysts. I use the term loosely because he's an actual analyst, and they are
literally getting paid to do this. So
and then you have people like throwing out the pro comparisons, and he's just like, no, like like this guy's like Tom Brady and that, and he's like, no, just like stuff like that.
Oh my! So as of Christmas Eve, and obviously we know that that's not. Things have changed since then. But at the time, he had the Eagles picking 18th, and we know that it'll be later in the 20s. But he had them going cornerback. He went with Bryce Hall from Virginia. He talked about Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, and then a bunch of random people that I had never heard of until watching this game. Now, I'm not an Eagles fan, so
the Eagles.
But I really had no idea who some of these guys were.
This is the problem. The Eagles started 13 or 14 different defensive backs this year. Malcolm Jenkins played every defensive snap of the entire year. So that's one defensive back spot you eliminate from that right away. So over the other 3, you started 13 different guys, and I believe you played 15 different guys. That means you at times you were literally on your 5th string guy at the other places. They had guys playing defensive back this year that were cut in the middle of the season from other teams, and they were starting for the Eagles in a second-round playoff game. Now, that's not to say that they can't. There's stories all the time where that comes. But that's usually one guy, not 3.
Right.
Or not that they were playing 3 at the same time. But, those things add up. You can't overcome all of those, and that's where you kind of look at. That makes it even crazier what this run the Eagles have been on. It's really kind of fascinating.
Yeah, so in consideration for defensive back for the Eagles in the draft, the next pick in this mock from Kyle Krabs of the Draft Network was Amani.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so he has him late first. The Penn State cornerback. I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I've never.
I think it's Aruwariye.
Yeah, I can't. But I'm not. Yeah, no.
Nah.
Nope, not happening. So the Eagles actually will be picking 25th because they get slotted in with all the playoff teams.
Right.
that lose in this round. So that would be the Eagles, Colts, the Cowboys, and the Chargers. But it goes by record, the regular season record, then to slot those 4 teams. So the Eagles had the worst record among those teams, so they actually will pick 25th overall. So
yeah, I mean, we'll see. I wouldn't mind if there's a guy there that you think can come in and play next year, then obviously take that guy. If not, trade out. I know, like, you need a partner to trade out, but trade out and build up some picks because you used a bunch of picks this year to get some other guys and to kind of move around. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Howie Roseman's going to kind of need to earn it here. But, you know, it's that combination. You need to build through the draft, but you add the pieces in through free agency, and that's where we'll kind of see. But.
So, you know, someone that would be interesting to see in Philadelphia would be the LSU cornerback Greedy Williams.
Hey,
that'd be. I mean, that.
There we go.
As of right now, and obviously the draft stuff isn't even official yet. I think they have until Tuesday to declare.
I think so.
Yeah. I think tomorrow, maybe the last full day, and at some point Tuesday is the cutoff. A lot have already declared. I'm not sure there's too many hanging out there, but
how about John Gruden and Mike Mayock trade the Eagles one of their 3 first-round picks for Nick Foles? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I know that, but
there's probably there tape on Gruden talking about Foles when he came out in the did he do his quarterback thing? I'm
sure there is, but Mike Mayock, man, Philly guy, accent and all, works all the Philly preseason games in the past, and now the GM out there. But we all know Gruden's calling the shots. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was an interesting hire. I wasn't a huge fan of Mayock for a while, but I came around on him, and you know, every draft analyst or wannabe expert out there is gonna have their hits and misses. So the first time that I started following him, I just wasn't impressed. But over the years, and I did it for a long time. Near the end, I was like, yeah, he's one of the best.
Yeah,
ones out
yeah.
there,
I liked him. But, like, some of it was he is a little, like, Philly-centric. Like, and he talked a lot of Eagle stuff outside of his, like, NFL Network, you know, shows and stuff. He was a lot of times on Philly stuff talking. So, like, that's kind of where I would see him a bunch. But, yeah, you know, it is an interesting hire. But I don't know that it's necessarily a bad hire because I kind of look at him as a talent evaluator,
right?
Which might be beneficial to them because if Gruden's calling the shots, which he is, like, let's not call this anything other than that,
right?
For him to get help on the talent evaluation part, especially from the college aspects where Gruden probably isn't going to have as many of the connections and things, that could be very beneficial with Gruden making the calls on, like, the contracts and things like that, or more or less making the call. You know, so it is an interesting hire, but. Another one there. You look, the guys he got rid of, man, they really helped some teams this year.
Yeah.
Khalil
Mack.
Khalil Mack helped turn the Bears defense up a notch.
Can you imagine if he would have been sent somewhere else? Like, I mean, look what he did for Chicago. Imagine if he would have ended up in, like, L.A.
Gosh. Like the Ravens.
Oh, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Or, like, but he also sent Amari Cooper to Dallas.
And look at what he did there.
Good. He cut C.J. Anderson without ever letting him play, and now he's playing really well for the Rams.
That he is.
Man, and they had him on the cheap too. Like that's the thing. Like, they were getting rid of the other guys. They flipped them for first-round picks. Okay, you know, like you can disagree with it, but you got first-round picks for them. And at the time, people were ripping the Cowboys for giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah, everyone thought that what are they doing?
Right.
Like, well, it seemed to work out for them.
Yeah, so who knows? Who knows? Anyway, Eagles, it was a good, you know, it's a solid season. Last year was the Super Bowl. It honestly takes this thing off a little bit this year. Like, yeah, I'm disappointed, but I don't know. You kind of see this one coming, I think.
Yeah, I just think about back into the early fall, and even just November's like not even quite 2 months ago, and it just like people were really down.
It just didn't seem like this team had it this year. They couldn't get out of their own way. Like it seemed like one step forward, two steps back with this team a lot, and that kind of sums up this game, right? First 10 minutes, one step forward. The rest of the game, two steps back.
Yeah, a couple of steps forward at the beginning, but then a lot of steps back the rest of the way.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's all we have to say right now about the Eagles-Saints game. So New Orleans, one representative in the NFC, and the other representative was decided last night, and that will be the Rams.
Yeah.
1 against 2, going to be in New Orleans because of the matchup earlier this year between the Rams and the Saints.
When another team, the Saints, spanked.
So I don't expect that again this time around.
No.
I think it'll be a good game. Rams-Saints, it's pretty much what we expected, I think, halfway through the season when they met the first time, and then with what the Rams were able to do against the Chiefs, I think a couple weeks after that, there were kind of 3 or 4 dominant teams most of the year, and depending on where you fall with the Patriots, at least 3 of them made it.
Yeah.
And, it pretty much was.
I would say the 3 dominant teams from the year are still playing.
Right. Rams, Saints,
and then probably
Chiefs.
the best of the rest is also playing.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, after last weekend, people were like, "Oh, we could, we're going to have like a 6 seed make it, and it's going to be crazy." Nope. Here we are, 1 and 2.
In both.
3 out of 4 road teams
Chalk.
won last week.
And all
this
4,
week,
right?
all
obviously,
the teams
if they're
that
ones too.
were expected to win did win based on seeding,
and the favorites, right? Yeah, because
were they all favored?
I believe they all were favored.
I'm not surprised by the Saints. I'm not surprised by the Rams.
I think the Chiefs were a small favorite.
Yeah, I would think so, and I would think that New England was because it was at home. So, but the Cowboys-Rams game was interesting at the beginning, and the Rams eventually pulled away. Again, I think we kind of saw. I think the Cowboys season almost mirrored the Eagles season. Now, obviously, Dallas wasn't coming off the Super Bowl and didn't have that high of expectations as many in Philadelphia did, but I was pretty high on Dallas entering the year, and they started incredibly slow. Then they were a middling team, and then, like Justin just mentioned, the acquisition of Amari Cooper from the Raiders really turned things around once he got to town and got comfortable with Dak Prescott in that offense. And I know my dad is not a big Prescott fan. And I'm not really sure he's that big of a Jason Garrett fan either. But again, if you compartmentalize and look at it in like months or half seasons, I think the Cowboys ended up probably overachieving based on what you would have thought in middle of September after the first few weeks of the year. At the beginning of the year, I would have said they went about where I expected them to go.
Yeah.
Because I think I had Dallas winning the division, if I recall. People question that because of the receivers, but when you go out and get Amari Cooper, that tends to fix some of those issues.
Well, and, for a while, the Cowboys missed on a lot of draft picks, and they've hit on some lately. And some of that was they've had some, like, crazy scenarios, like Lionel Collins. Like, that was a crazy scenario where they were able to get him. Jalen Smith, crazy scenario where they were able to get him. Like, things like that. Having just an absolutely terrible year and getting Ezekiel Elliott. Like, stuff like that has helped them. It's going to be interesting because I heard your dad reference this today. The Cowboys, I believe, I don't know if they're the youngest team in the playoffs or if they're one of the youngest teams in the league, but they are very young across the board. With that, though, come a lot of contract situations kind of come around at the same time. And I think Dak is going to be up soon I think he might be entering his 4th year next year. And it's going to be interesting to kind of see how this kind of plays out. Because then you're going to have Elliott and you're going to have Amari Cooper, who I think has a contract through next year, but is probably going to want an extension this year. It's going to be interesting because Jerry Jones has said Dak is his guy. Mm-hmm. Jason Garrett, I think, did enough, and I think he likes Jason Garrett because I think Jason Garrett does whatever he tells him.
Right.
I know people talk about like the Cowboys and like going out, and obviously if they were to make a head coaching, they are the Cowboys, and they'd probably make a splash, you know, and Jones would probably pay whatever he wants to get whoever he wants. However, you know, you look at that dynamic, especially in this like time where there were a number of coaches who either removed themselves late from coaching searches or turned down jobs because the team was going to pick the staff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the rumor that in Denver was that Munchak was offered the job, but Elway was going to pick like the rest of the offensive staff, and he said no thanks.
No thanks, yeah.
And the same thing now. There are conflicting stories of whether Matt Rule was offered the job with the Jets, or but he was a finalist. And when he asked about how are we going to do this, and they said, well, we're going to name the other guys, he said, well, then I don't want it.
Right.
You know, so he was one of 2 or 3 guys at the end. There, like, so it's just kind of interesting how you have a number of these teams that are basically telling the coaches, no, we're going to fill out your staff, which is really kind of odd. I could see...
Yeah.
Like,
I always thought it was the head coach filled out his staff.
As it should be.
Yeah.
It's their job on the line. Especially... Now, I understand, like, GMs may view it as it's their job. You know, like, because if I hire this coach and it doesn't get done, like, I'm going to get fired. But it's kind of a weird scenario if you hire a coach, but you don't. What are you saying when you hire a new head coach to take over your football team, but you don't trust their decision enough to make the hirings of the rest of their staff? You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to entrust you with leading this football team, but we don't even trust you to fill out your staff?
Yeah, that doesn't sound
That seems
right.
like an odd...
Doesn't make much sense at all.
No.
So my dad says, and there's no, obviously, attribution here, but he says that they are the youngest team in the NFL. Now, I don't know if that means the entire roster.
Right.
That just
I
means
knew
the
he
starters.
said that. I just couldn't remember if he said it for the playoffs or thing. And when I think about it, I mean, it very well could be true. Like, they have a lot of young guys.
Right. So I'm looking at the Cowboys' potential free agents here this year. They have a few names up that may be interesting, but nothing too major this offseason. DeMarcus Lawrence is the biggest one.
Yeah.
He's 27.
So he's going to be looking for a big
But
contract.
he's looking for, so he's the one that the Cowboys are going to need to figure out if they can keep him.
I don't think they keep him
big
because
defensive
they're
end.
going to be looking to keep those other guys coming up.
Tavon Austin is also up, as is Cole Beasley.
Tavon Austin's gone. I think Cole Beasley might be gone.
But then once you get to 2020, that's where things start to get interesting because they have Lyle Collins, who you mentioned. He's going to be up. Amari Cooper, Byron Jones, Jalen Smith, Randy Gregory, Xavier Su'a-Filo, the guard, Dak Prescott, Blake Jarwin, who we saw come on near the end
here's
of the year.
Here's the thing with
Maher,
Dak.
the kicker.
Dak wasn't a first-round pick, so he does not have that fifth-year option.
Right, he was a third round, I believe.
Right. I thought he was fourth.
Was he fourth?
Yeah.
Okay.
I could be
No,
wrong.
you might be right. I'll see what it says. I thought, round 4, 135 overall. So, he's entering the final year of his initial rookie deal in 2019. So they need to figure out very quickly what they're going to do with Prescott. But I mean, just listen to the.
Well, honestly, if you're going to extend him, they should probably extend him this year. You know,
Right.
looking at that, they should extend him this year and put it up.
Signing him this year.
Right, because one, you don't want him to enter true free agency because if he has a great year next year, that's going to break the bank.
Unless you're going to use the franchise
the
tag.
same year, you're going to have to sign all these other guys.
Well, they need to start working on now. Lyle Collins, Amari Cooper,
right.
probably Byron Jones, Jalen Smith, Randy Gregory, Su'a-Filo starts for them.
Right.
And then Prescott. I mean, then there's a bunch of other people on here. They got to decide what they want to do with them. But I mean, those 5 or so that I mentioned, those are important guys. That is the core of their team, and they are all very young. And Maher, the kicker, I mentioned him too. He's the oldest of the group at 30 of those big time guys. Su'a-Filo is 29. Collins is only 27. Jones is 27. Gregory's 27. Prescott's 27. Cooper's 26. So Smith's only 25.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot of things to work out. And I believe all those guys are unrestricted. None of them are exclusive. Oh, Brett Maher, the kicker, would be exclusive rights free agent.
And a lot of those guys are going to be big contract guys.
Yeah.
You know, so it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so if they let Lawrence walk this year, that'll save them some money. But those, that core 5 right there, you got to think they've got to think long and hard about signing all of them if they're
Right.
able to do it. Let's just quick step back and look at the Eagles entering free agency this year. Some of the big names that are going to be up for debate.
You give me
whether
some
they
big names,
extend
and I'll
them.
tell you whether I think they're back or not.
Brandon Graham.
Gone.
If this is Andy Reid, I say for sure he's gone because he's 31. Golden Tate.
Gone.
Mike Wallace, who I don't
Gone.
think was even playing during
No.
the end of the year. Haloti Nada.
I think he's gone.
Chance Warmack.
Gone.
Chris Long.
Gone.
Chris Maragos.
Gone.
Corey Graham.
Gone.
Darren Sproles.
I think he's back because I think the running back position is crazy. I think they get him for another 1-year deal.
Ronald Darby.
I think he's gone.
Jordan Matthews.
I think he's gone.
Jordan Hicks.
Actually, I changed Matthews. I think Matthews is back.
You think
next
he comes
year.
back?
Yeah.
Jordan Hicks.
I think Jordan Hicks is back.
Jay Ajayi.
I think he's gone.
Jake Elliott. Exclusive rights.
They'll bring him back, yeah.
So they're losing a bunch of guys, but a lot of them are older veterans. Now,
Right.
you got to have someone to replace them.
Right.
But those first 4 guys, and 5 of the first 6, actually 8 of the first
And a
10
lot of those
are
guys-
all over 30.
Right, and a lot of them are like rotational guys, like Chris Long. Like I love Chris Long, and he won a Super Bowl here, so forever indebted, right? But like, I mean, now if Chris Long wants to sign another 1-year deal, but I think Chris Long will probably go somewhere where he'll probably get more money for a 1-year deal, kind of thing. Chance Warmack, it didn't work out. That's fine. Some of those guys, Jordan Hicks, I think is key. I think you need Jordan Hicks back.
2020, the Eagles would be looking to lose in free agency Jason Peters, Nick Foles, who we already talked about the option there.
Right. I think Peters, I feel like he might be done with the Eagles.
Do you think he's done, or do you think he's going to retire?
I think it's going to I don't know. I think a lot depends on what the Eagles, how the rugby player is doing in his recovery. So.
Aguilar and Wisniewski also up in 2 years, as are some of the younger guys in Samolo, DeAndre Hall, Crevan LeBlanc, who we saw set the tone for the first 10 minutes in a big way. Smallwood,
talk about
Vitae,
guy got cut from the Lions earlier this year.
Jalen Mills, Trayvon Hester, Corey Clement, Josh Adams. Those are all guys up in 2020.
Yeah. So a lot of guys, but not necessarily the same caliber guys.
It's definitely tougher for Dallas.
Yeah.
So the one that I think surprised me the most this weekend was the way New England dominated Los Angeles.
Yeah, I wasn't
Chargers.
expecting that.
I really, and I'm sure there was part of me just because I don't want New England to win. I didn't want them to win this game, but I just thought the way the Chargers were playing, I thought they could win this game, and I apparently once again completely underestimated the Patriots, which, I hadn't done that for a long time. I usually always gave them the benefit of the doubt, and definitely got caught today in thinking that the Chargers were going to be able to hang with them, and they didn't even.
I said to people, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, picking against the Patriots in New England in the playoffs. Like, what was I thinking?
Right.
And I did it anyway.
And Belichick and Brady and company did it again, and now they are thankfully going on the road to the Chiefs. Just
go Chiefs.
Nothing ever goes well for.
That's great. But who are the
teams.
chefs? Throwback.
So. It was domination. I mean, that game. I mean, it
was boring.
Somewhat close towards the end.
I love seeing on social media they're like, I'm kind of mad because now I have to do the things on my like honey-do list and like stuff like that. Like because they're like, but honestly, I probably should because this game is boring, and it was. Like, man, they gave up. They just rolled over. Oh.
Yeah, it was not good. Was not good.
No.
Chargers, by and large, though, coming back pretty much the same roster that they had this year. Brandon McBain, starting defensive tackle, is hitting free agency at age 34. One of their wide receivers, Terrell Williams, up for a new contract, as is Antonio Gates, although we kind of
I think he's
seen the
retiring,
last few
yeah.
years he's been, basically gone and then would come back. Jason Verrett, Denzel Perryman, Donnie Jones, Jalen Watkins, and for the Penn Staters, Trevor Williams also up for new contract for the Chargers, but by and large, they're mostly back.
Yeah.
Now, did they miss a window here? Are we going to start to see regression from Phillip Rivers? Are they going to be able to supplement and complement, and fix the issues that plague them today in New England? We'll find out. But the Chargers.
I think their biggest problem today was that they were playing New England, and yet another 1:00 Eastern start for them. It's just recipe for disaster for them.
Yeah, it wasn't.
And to think they're a play away from winning the West, and maybe getting a 1 seed, and therefore hosting, maybe the Patriots or someone, in this round. It's crazy. You look at those plays, they're like those single plays. They're a huge difference. Well, for example, that play at the end of the game, Miami against the Patriots, is the difference between New England going to Kansas City this week or Kansas City coming to New England this week.
That doesn't disappoint me in any way.
No, I'm sure that makes you happy on multiple levels.
Just because I don't think Kansas City would beat them in New England. They didn't do it once this year already. What makes me think they could do it again
I'm not sure
this year?
Kansas City's going to beat them. But if I have to pick a place where I think it can happen, I'm picking Kansas City.
Yeah, because they got the Arrowhead monkey off their back. Kansas City has just had terrible playoff luck, especially at home.
You see, the Colts had more coming into this weekend. The Colts had more playoff wins at Arrowhead than
the
Kansas
Chiefs
City did,
which is crazy to think about. I mean, but that was another game that I actually got wrong because I actually thought the Colts were rolling. I thought that they were going to upset the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got that one.
So many times you see these teams that are on a bye, and maybe the Chiefs didn't technically struggle, but they weren't the same team
No,
they were the
not
first
the same.
8-9 weeks of the year. It's like
Dude,
that game against the Rams on Monday night. Things just they were still really good offensively. They couldn't stop anyone, or they had they just weren't as much of the world beaters that they were made out to be at the beginning of the year.
Were you watching any of that game yesterday?
Which one?
The Chiefs game yesterday.
I watched the first half.
So you saw when Mahomes got hit and he's hobbling around, and I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, Chad's getting in this game.
I hope he can get into the next game, but only because they're winning by 30.
Can you imagine if he's how sweet would it be? He gets in, and they're up 40 in the fourth quarter, and they run they fake a kneel down, and he throws for a touchdown.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Dial up Andy Reid and let him know.
Yeah.
So
hey Andy.
The Colts are the team that are sent home by the Chiefs. They were an interesting team this year as well because they started really badly. I mean, were they 0-3?
Yeah.
Or something like that. They had a tough start to the year. Everyone felt bad for Frank Reich.
They were 1-5.
Were they 1-5?
I think so.
And then they got rolling, except for one hiccup against the Jaguars, which was really random.
Yeah.
But they looked incredible. They stormed through that division. They were able to take care of the Titans. Because of the slow start, they weren't able to take down the Texans, but they held off the Titans. If they were to start a little better, they probably win the division because they obviously proved that, at least at the end of the year, they were the better team.
Yeah.
When I'm talking about the Texans, since they beat them. And then, people like me were thinking they could possibly go into Kansas City and beat the Chiefs. But Kansas City out to prove something, and they definitely did it, sending the Colts home. The Colts, not too many notable names being left to free agency in a few months. And Vinatieri, is he done? He's 46 now. He's up. Really, after that, a couple guys on the wrong side of 30. Maybe Pierre Desir, the cornerback. There's not a ton of people out there. Some fringe guys, some starters for sure, but do they make a huge difference whether or not you could find a replacement or draft a guy? So I expect the Colts, they're going to go as Andrew Luck goes.
Right.
And the Colts proved that you can turn around a team in a draft. Now, I know you can say, well, it helps to have Andrew Luck. Of course it does. If you have a great quarterback, and he finally got to be that way after a few weeks.
Right. Imagine that, though. Imagine that his resurgent is also paired with hitting on picking up maybe the best lineman drafted, this
Probably
year.
since Zach Martin.
Right.
Since the Cowboys got Martin, and they got Quentin Nelson, both Notre Dame guards.
Yeah.
Quentin Nelson, if he was an offensive lineman, could possibly be Rookie of the Year.
Right.
They may have the Defensive Rookie of the Year, Darius Leonard.
They should. He should have been All-Pro.
Someone that no one had heard of.
Right. Had more tackles than anyone else in the league by like 40. Yeah.
So, this just proves you can build the draft and it can turn your team around quickly. Yeah. And if they hadn't struggled early, who knows what position they would have been in.
So when they beat the Texans in the playoffs, and there's the video of Jim Irsay in the locker room just kind of being incoherent, and not a good look for Jim Irsay, who has had some public issues with incoherent and poor decisions. Somebody goes, "That's it. I changed my Coach of the Year vote to Frank Reich just because he had to do this with that as his owner," or something like that. It's like imagine going to work every day and that's your boss.
Yeah. Well, it's so disappointing to be like the NFL season is almost over, but
yeah. But you know what? It'll be a good pick-me-up when the Phillies sign Bryce Harper and Manny Machado.
Well, they're getting one of them because I refuse to believe they're not getting any of them. So, but
I saw when the Saints took the lead, somebody on Facebook or on Twitter was like, "Now would be a great time for the Phillies to announce that they're signing Bryce Harper."
Well, that'll come. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure, within about a month or so.
I sure hope so.
Spring training, MLB, and the new super team in Major League Baseball. But just to wrap up some football stuff here before we go. So AFC and NFC championships feature 2 traveling to 1, exactly as the NFL planned it. So it will be Rams at Saints and Patriots at Chiefs. Right now, not who you want. Well, who's it going to be? Basically, what's the Super Bowl matchup after these 4 teams, after the final gun sounds next Sunday?
I'm going to go with Saints. I'm going to go with Saints Patriots. As my prediction. As of my right now predictions, not my rooting interest. Rooting interests, I pick the Saints and Chiefs.
I'm going to go Saints Chiefs, and maybe I'll get bit again for doubting the Patriots. And if the Patriots beat the Chiefs next week, I will never pick against the Patriots ever again. I just I can't. Because how often this year we're like, this is not the same Patriots team. This is not the same Patriots team. And then they go out and whip the Chargers today.
Yeah,
but they earn a bye.
I'm hoping it's the Chargers being playoff Chargers. Because
you're right.
That very well could be it too.
I hope that too.
But
if they beat the Chiefs with the Chiefs offense, with the way they've been playing, with being at home or the Patriots on the road, if they go to the Super Bowl again, I don't even have any words for it. And then I just have to hope that the Rams or the Saints win it.
Right.
I'm going to go with the Saints just because I favor the home team. The Saints are awfully good at home. The Rams, I still think, are a little young, maybe out of their element.
Well, and I just don't think...
Over the last month of the season, Goff wasn't anything special.
And their defense wasn't anything special.
So, while
Aaron Donald was special.
Yeah.
Aaron Donald is special.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right. So here's the thing, and we've talked about this before.
Why is Pitt always
Pitt
terrible?
produces so many good pros, especially defensively.
Why are they so terrible?
How are they so bad? Oh, kind of a rhetorical question.
Right. I don't care.
Pitt's gonna Pitt, right?
Yeah. I'm not gonna rhyme.
I know.
So I'm going to go, and I'm sure this is part of me. This is what I want because I want Chiefs Saints.
Oh
I
my
think.
gosh!
I mean, I'll take Chiefs Rams too.
I'll take
it. Just
it.
has to be Chiefs. It just, and obviously I'm sporting the local guy for the Chiefs and Chad Henne. I already grabbed the jersey right before the show started, and I am glad that I bought this in the spring because now I don't have to worry about what am I going to wear Super Bowl Sunday. Because if the Chiefs win, obviously I'm rooting for the Chiefs. No disrespect to Drew Brees or other local boy Alex Anzalone for the Saints, but if the Chiefs are in, I am absolutely 100% in on Kansas City, as I'm guessing everyone in this area is going to be, except if it's the Rams, maybe Mr. Steinerhan, not cheering for the Chiefs, but. Yeah, I think the Reading, PA area, should it be Chiefs-Rams, will be mostly Chiefs. Should it be Chiefs-Saints, that's an interesting dynamic, having two people from the suburbs of Reading playing in the Super Bowl. So a lot to look forward to. I'm very excited and also a little disappointed that we're at that time of the year.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, it's one of the, so bittersweet, but... so we will be back next Sunday to talk about the two championship games, and probably the Sunday after that, or the Pro Bowl weekend there, we'll have something to talk about, probably preview the Super Bowl, since, despite us getting the massive viewership that we get, we don't like to go up against the Super Bowl. We don't want to take away from the NFL, so we always sit that one out, and we probably won't do a Saturday show since we're doing a preview show during the Pro Bowl weekend. And then actually the week after the Super Bowl, we will actually be celebrating 8 years.
I kind of thought you were going to say we're going to start our preview.
We're going to start our 2019 NFL previews. No, we're going to celebrate.
We're going to
8
start with the
years.
AFC West, and
we're going to give 6 weeks to each division. That's what we're going to do. No, we are going to celebrate 8 years. Maybe we'll do like a listener special, recap the Super Bowl, have some fun. And then Justin and I will discuss what we're going to do.
If the Patriots win, no Super Bowl talk.
That's true. The show is done. We'll discuss how we're going to handle the off season, since it's essentially developed into mostly a football show, especially with the Flyers being terrible and the Sixers being, I'd say, underachieving.
Yes.
Yeah, because they're still good and they're going to make the playoffs.
Right.
It's just they're not being as
they
dominant.
lost to a terrible Atlanta team,
Right.
and they barely beat a Knicks team.
I expected no worse than a third best in the East.
Right.
Yeah.
And right now they're fourth, I think.
Right.
But
So
only back by a couple games from one, but
they're not.
I saw a thing today that says they should trade Jimmy Butler before the trade deadline.
And get what?
I don't know, but they said it didn't work. But to get something as opposed to getting nothing, because they're like, are you going to pay him 5 years, $190 million?
Yeah. See, I don't know enough about NBA salary cap and stuff like that, so I'm just riding the wave. But just every day I look at highlights and read recaps, and it's just like, man, can you guys put it together, please? So that's been disappointing. So we won't talk NBA till the summer,
right?
Well, end of spring. Probably won't talk hockey at all because the Flyers are just awful and no one wants to talk about it. I by the way, and this is completely unpaid, but The Athletic is excellent.
Yeah.
The Athletic
So I
is
almost
excellent.
sent something out on social media at Christmas time, like saying, look, this is not us trying, not getting paid for this, and not trying to get somebody to buy it for me because my subscription is good till August. I didn't sign up till August. So
Okay, I signed up in the spring.
Right, I have so much time left. That's not what I'm looking for. But if you're looking for something for the sports fan in your life,
you're looking for something that takes away opinions as facts and non-sports stuff hidden in sports things. Give The Athletic a try.
It's awesome.
It's
I really like
good. Especially if you're a Penn State fan, I love Audrey Snyder. Her stuff is amazing.
Yes.
I like Perkins for the Dolphins, but no one really listening here is a Dolphins fan. I do tend to read the Eagles stuff just to try to keep associated with the local
team. I'll tell you, I liked it in August, but the college football
stuff is
amazing. Audrey Snyder does incredible.
Feldman too.
Feldman and Mandel.
And Mandel, right?
Just
Feldman, Mandel, and Audrey Snyder
out of the park.
Yeah.
so often.
The college football
I
coverage
loved
is
it.
amazing.
Yes.
I really enjoy, even though the Flyers are terrible, I read every Flyers article because the advanced metrics are
and
great.
you know what else too? I really liked how there's so many articles. Like so many of the links on other sites now are videos, and that's fine. But like, I want to read. It sounds terrible. I feel like an old person right now, but like,
I don't want
there's certain
someone
times
yelling
where like
at me.
I don't want to have to watch it or listen to it. I want to be able to read it as I get to it because I might only
Right.
be able to read a couple sentences
Right,
now,
exactly.
and then later I'll read the rest of it or whatever. But like, you can't
Yep.
do that with the video. It doesn't work the same way.
So if if you've given up on ESPN and you're tired of going through all the ads at like
Right.
CBS and Fox Sports and like all these other places, check out the Athletic.
And I
yes,
still
you
go
have
to
to
some of
pay.
those other sites, but like for the teams that I root for, like that I follow, I should say, like Penn State, where
Right.
where I want to read about the recruiting news, and I want to read about like, you know, the Tuesday practice, and I want to read about, you know, the visits and all those things.
Penn State and college football is what sold it
Yeah.
on me when the season got here because I subscribed in like March and like as I'm going through I'm like this is fine but do I really need to pay for
Right.
this? But then when the college football stuff came I was like this is definitely worth $2 or $3 a month.
Yep.
Because it's like
Exactly.
$24.99 or $35.99, you know, something like that.
Yeah, it's usually, I think it is like 35, but they're almost always running deals, and
Right.
as they sign people, and if you subscribe, they're going to keep getting more people to work for them.
Well, and if you'd like to try it, I'm sure Justin and I would more than love to give you our code so that we can save a
Yeah.
few bucks.
Yep.
So if you're interested in sports news and you're just tired of
I've
the
never,
options out there,
I've never paid for sports stuff like that.
Right.
I never, like, I was really close, but I never did ESPN Insider. Even like way back in the day when like I was really close to doing ESPN Insider and things like that. Like I didn't do it. I couldn't be more pleased that I did it for the Athletic.
I had ESPN Insider because it came with ESPN the magazine.
Yeah.
So like as those went hand in hand, it just kind of. But I axed that a few years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely recommend the Athletic, the stuff they do, especially if you're a college football fan.
They also have some interesting fantasy football stuff, and it's different than some of the fantasy stuff you get other places too. So, yeah, I was a fan, and I'm really liking, now that football is winding down, I'm starting to get into some of the other things. I'm reading some of the Phillies articles. I'm reading some of those pieces. Like, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, that's now that college football is pretty much ended. Now I have the draft and the Phillies, and I still read all the Flyer stuff, even though they're terrible.
Yeah.
I read like what's Fletcher gonna do, who
Right.
could be the next coach,
Yeah.
why did they just trade Jordan Wheel? You know, why is Carter Hart still showing that he's gonna be a superstar? Things like that.
Right.
So yeah, if you're a sports fan struggling with sports coverage, you know, outside maybe the local stuff in your local paper, definitely check out the Athletic.
Yeah.
So my dad, right before we go here, I just want to make sure that I get in his text. Antonio Brown. What's going to happen with him in Pittsburgh?
I think he's gone.
You think he's gone?
think
What's
he's
he going to? Is he going to demand a first-round pick from someone?
Yes, because of his contract. Like, because the team's going to have control over him. And I think they're going to feel like he has to keep playing. You know, like he needs to. Like, he needs another team more than the team needs them.
He says New Orleans over Kansas City. Two more. He asked us earlier, where do you think Nick Foles ends up?
I don't know. I would love for the Eagles to be able to get anything for him in the trade market. I don't think teams are going to do that because they know the Eagles have to cut him. Although, like, here's the thing. If you could get a team to do it because, like, they know they're not going to bid high enough to get – I say high enough. He's not going to get, like, Kirk Cousins money or anything. But, like, if they want him for a year, you know – and I know that's not necessarily what – but if the Dolphins are looking, like, for a year, or if the Jaguars who are like, we need to turn this around real quick.
Right.
You tell me Tom Coughlin might not send, like, a 5th or a 6th round pick, you know, for him?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm not saying he should. I'm not – I understand this is the homer in me in Philly hoping for something. But, you know, I don't know.
I'm gonna.
I honestly have no idea where he ends up.
I'll say Miami just because why not? Because they're gonna get rid of Tannehill. They still don't have a coach, but it's supposedly gonna be the de facto defensive coordinator from New England, which can't happen until New England's out of the playoffs or they reach the break between the Super Bowl. And I think Miami still drafts a quarterback maybe this year and next year, just because they got to fix the position. They got to figure it out.
Right.
So, I don't think it'll be Haskins, but I could see it being someone like Drew Lock or Daniel Jones. We'll see what happens there. Maybe not necessarily even in the first round. It could even be a second-round guy. I think the other – you mentioned the Jaguars. I think that definitely is a possibility, but I think I fear for Alex Smith, and I think he could end up in Washington.
Yeah, I think that could be an interesting one there, too.
So we talked about – how about this is easy one. Uncle Rich just said Antonio Brown to the Patriots. No, that's not even talking about that.
It's going to happen,
that
dude.
is,
it's the next Randy Moss situation, dude.
Pittsburgh would never trade him in to them.
I know, you're right. And
that would have to involve a third team.
And they're not going to trade him to any of their division teams either.
Right, so he's not going to Baltimore, Cleveland, or Cincinnati.
And Oakland has the arsenal to trade for him if they want him, but I don't think the Steelers would trade him to Oakland either. I think if they're going to trade him, they're going to trade him to an NFC team. Maybe you trade him to like Arizona. There you go. I don't know.
And sticking with the Steelers trend here, what about Le'Veon Bell? Where's he going?
Eagles, baby.
I think Indianapolis.
That would be interesting.
So, they
Eagles aren't going to spend the money for Le'Veon Bell.
No, I don't think so. But I think, you talked about ownership in Indianapolis, kind of quirky.
Yeah.
And you put Bell there with Luck and T.Y. Hilton, and they just kind of can figure out how to throw a few guys there. They've got the nice dual threats at Doyle and Ebron at tight end. They've got a young and developing line. Finally, if Leonard can get that defense together as in the second season, they make a couple defensive additions. I think the Colts can be right there, probably winners of that division next year.
Yep.
So I think Bell's a good chance. I'm assuming my dad just texted me Dallas. I assume he means for Antonio Brown, not for Le'Veon Bell, because that would kind of be pointless. But they don't have a first-round pick, so there's no way that Antonio Brown can end up in Dallas unless they're willing to send something else to Pittsburgh.
Oh.
So that's not happening as much as people would want. But yeah, so I think that's it. You got shout-outs?
Happy birthday to my dad today.
Yep. Happy birthday to Mr. Raffoff right now. Today. This is it. So
my son insisted we have a party. We didn't. We just had dinner there yesterday.
Right.
And he's like, Pop, what's the theme to your party? And he's like, well, we don't really do themes. He's like, no, you must have a theme.
You gotta have a theme.
So we had Star Wars plates.
Oh, well, I approve. I think that's a win for everyone.
Yes.
So, because we've been away for 2 weeks, a lot has happened. Happy New Year, I guess, first of all, even though we're like 2 weeks into it. But also congratulations to my sister and my brother-in-law on the birth of their baby boy, Logan. So I have a nephew and officially an uncle, and I look forward to in about 13 years we get to coach him, so that'll be fun. Although technically he'll be on the southern side, so I don't. We have to change allegiances. I don't know. We'll see how that works out. Just excited, especially because Jason, the father, insists that he's going to play water polo. But I said nope. It's football all the way.
That might work.
So, yep. Sorry to see the holidays end because that just means football is ending. But we got the championship games to look forward to next week and the Super Bowl 3 weeks from today. It'll be a lot of fun, and Justin and I will have some interesting stuff for you probably in the next few months, just a little bit different than what we usually do. We'll celebrate 8 years, and then we'll have some fun for a few months before we start our NFL previews, which will happen probably sometime in April.
Hey.
You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. That's literally what I was going to say.
So if that's everything, then I think we'll wrap it up. So this concludes episode 269 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Be sure to tune in hopefully every Sunday for our take on sports. For Justin, I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.